going to.
The 1997 inclusion of Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope is superior to the 2004 version of Jabba the Hutt in A New Hope. Now, this is just my opinion, and I know it's a controversial one. Most people prefer the 2004 version of Jabba in A New Hope, but here are my reasons. Jabba just looks more like himself in the 1997 version. He looks more like the version of Jabba from Return of the Jedi, which is really what we should be going for when we're critiquing this scene. It's very important to make the character look like he matches how he looks in Return of the Jedi, because how Jabba appears in Return of the Jedi is how people remember him. It was his iconic movie. First, the eyes. Jabba's eyes are way better in the 1997 version than in the 2004 one. Jabba's eyes are supposed to be big and wide and shiny. They appear like this in the 97 version. His eyes really do match how they look in Return of the Jedi in the 1997 version. They make Jabba's eyes very tiny, and his pupils are real small in the 2004 version. And half the time he looks like he's squinting while he's talking to Han Solo. It just doesn't look right. Another problem with the 04 version is Jabba's skin. He looks like he has sunburn in the 2004 version. But in the 97 version, his skin has that green color to his sides and an orange front, or sand orange looking front to him. Especially the green, the bright green on his sides. These are the kind of colors that match how Jabba looks in Return of the Jedi. The 2004 version of Jabba in A New Hope looks like a Jabba the Hutt toy that's been laying in the sun at the beach for like hours on end, and now his color is faded. His colors match Return of the Jedi Jabba in the 97 version. Now here's another moment that always stuck out to me. Han's eyes looking at Jabba's eyes. Han is looking right at Jabba, especially when he's pointing to him, when he first talks to him up close. In the 2004 version, when he's pointing to him, Han looks like he's staring at his nose, like he's staring at his nostrils. It just doesn't match, because the 97 version of Jabba is slightly taller, I think. So their eyes are matching one another in the 97 version. Not to mention, he's slightly larger in size in the 97 version, which also matches his weight from Return of the Jedi. You could make some kind of argument that Jabba would be less fat in A New Hope because he's able to slowly walk around, as opposed to the metal slab he could only sit on in Return of the Jedi. Like by the time it was Return of the Jedi, he got fatter. But who really gives a shit? It's about which version of Jabba looks better, you know. The 04 version of Jabba, he definitely looks tinier. Definitely. Not to mention, you see Jabba's tongue more in the 97 version than the 04 version. And this might seem like a minor thing, but if you recall, Jabba's tongue was shown quite a bit in Return of the Jedi, and it was one of the things that was memorable about him, you know, being the slimeball Crumb Lord. And the fact that they show his tongue more sticking out of his mouth in the 97 version, it fits more with his slimy character. In the 04 version, they barely show his tongue. I mean, hardly ever. There's just certain shots comparing the 97 version and the 04 version of the way Jabba's skin looks in particular, all the details of Jabba's skin. The 97 version, you could tell they worked really hard to try to match the visuals of how his skin looked and all the little details about his skin in all the spots that match how he looked, how that puppet looked in Return of the Jedi. In the 2004 version, it just seemed like they were trying something completely different, and it's just not authentic. It's like a new Jabba the Hutt, and that's not the point behind this. This is supposed to be the same character in the same trilogy, so Jabba appearing in A New Hope, he should appear as close as possible to the Return of the Jedi version. So really the charm of Jabba's character is that he was a very sinister character, and he was also a comedic character at the same time. He was a character that had a balance of both of those things, which is what made him memorable to people. That was really what made Jabba Jabba. He was funny, yet he was mean and sinister at the same time. So one of the things that's interesting is that in the 97 version, when Han walks behind him, he steps on his tail, and Jabba makes like a goofy face with his eyes, like almost like his eyes are becoming cross-eyed. In the 04 version, when Han steps on his tail, Jabba makes like an angry face. Now, to me, they both seem to match his personality, but since Jabba had his silly and funny moments in Return of the Jedi, I much prefer the 97 version where his eyes look very silly when he steps on his tail. Not to mention, if someone really did step on Jabba's tail, he would be way more pissed than he looks in A New Hope. He just kind of brushes it off in the '04 version, but in the 97 version, Jabba makes it seem like he's confused and doesn't really know what just happened, which you could argue makes him come across like a bumbling idiot, but that's not true, because Jabba's a genius. I mean, he was a genius for what he did. But, I mean, not to mention the lighting in the 97 version, in this scene in particular, in the hangar bay, it looks much brighter and much more visually appealing looking than the dimmer, murkier version in the '04 version. It just seems like the lighting is dimmer to try to make Jabba seem like he's there more. Though I never had a problem pretending that Jabba was there in the 97 version because he is a special effect, and there's lots of special effects in Star Wars. Not everything is really there in Star Wars, so I always had no problem with that. It is frustrating to me the fact that they would sacrifice the better lighting for the scene just to make Jabba appear more like he's in the room with Han. The 97 version feels more like this attitude that this is Star Wars. So of course there's going to be computer-generated creatures and puppet creatures. We know they're not there anyway, so I don't know. Now, I know this is a fairly minor thing, but I always find all the minor things very interesting. I think the subtitles are a little bigger looking in size than the subtitles in the '04 version. And it does bother me a little bit. It's just more charming and better looking visually in the 97 version. It seemed like they wanted to make the subtitles smaller in the '04 version to make it seem more cinematic, I guess. But having bigger subtitles, especially in a sci-fi film, it makes it feel more old school for some reason. Like that kind of charming feeling that you're watching some sort of sci-fi movie on a TV or something. I don't know. Now back to talking about Jabba's eyelids. I mean, look how great and charming his eyelids look in the 97 version. They even have that brown amber color, autumn color, that they look like in Return of the Jedi. In the 2004 version, they made Jabba's eyes smaller, way smaller, and he looks like he has Sith eyeballs in the '04 version. Even though Jabba's not a Sith, he acts very Sith-like, which is pretty cool and neat. And they did the same thing with General Grievous in Revenge of the Sith. They gave him Sith eyes as well. So it seems like the '04 version is trying to match more like the prequel style, where the Sith, you can spot a Sith by their eyes, that they have slits in their eyes. It's very reptilian-like, and Jabba himself is, reptilian-like creature. But Jabba always had the slit in his eyes anyway from Return of the Jedi, so you didn't need to make them more Sith-like to match in some sort of consistency with the prequel era. To me, Jabba's eyes are way better looking and more authentic to the Return of the Jedi version in the 1997 version. Now, lastly, obviously the visuals look a little sharper and a little more detailed in the 2004 version because of better technology, but which version do you want? The problem is that the 97 version doesn't look as polished than the '04 version, yet the 97 version looks more like Jabba the Hutt than the 2004 version. So both times they screwed up. So you really have to pick your poison. One thing I will say that they did improve on in the '04 version is Jabba's personality. You can see his personality shine out more, and he's a little more expressive in the 2004 version, which is really fun to watch. But the problem is that he doesn't look like Jabba. The 97 version looks more like Jabba the Hutt. So either way, you're screwed, because they couldn't make a version of Jabba that looked like Jabba in Return of the Jedi and had Jabba's full personality on display. They screwed it up both times. So again, you have to pick your poison. Do you want a Jabba the Hutt that looks like Jabba the Hutt? Or do you want a odd-looking Jabba where his colors don't match and the eyes aren't the same, but his personality is there? Which is more important to you as a viewer? It's a very interesting question to a Star Wars fan. And this is really, I guess, a preference. but it would have been nice if they just did a third time and gave us the perfect version of Jabba in like the Blu-ray version or whatever, instead of reusing the '04 version for the Blu-ray later release. They could have really, by the third time, got it fully right if they tried it again, but we didn't get that. So now we're forced to decide, of these two versions, both flaws in both versions, which one is definitely better. And maybe there's no answer, but it's interesting to think about. Another thing they did really right was the large, like, pimples or whatever on Jabba's left side of his mouth. These match the side of his mouth, the left side of his mouth from Return of the Jedi. In the '04 version, they just completely ignore that, like it never is part of Jabba's, architecture of his skin, of the character's design. Again, these are like little details where you can tell, even though special effects-wise, the '97 version of Jabba could have looked better, at least they tried their hardest to make it match how he looked in Return of the Jedi. In the '04 version, they just completely gave up, and that's not what you're supposed to do if you're trying to make this character feel like the same one from Return of the Jedi. Another thing about Jabba's appeal is he's a very visual character. People remember that look, and people have fond memories of Return of the Jedi and Jabba the Hutt. And people remember how he looks. People are going to think about these little details and things like that. As you can tell, and I wouldn't have made this video otherwise, I'm a very big Jabba the Hutt fan, so it's hard to not notice these little things the million times you watch A New Hope. So anyway, my name is SuperPet98. Thanks for watching, especially if you watched all the way to the end. Please like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I still say the 1997 version is better than the 2004 version. Anyway, may the Force be with you, and I'll see you all again next time.